Hello and welcome to this next video. We are going to start slowly edging ourselves onto the charts. But before we do, I just wanted to do this quick video because a lot of you are going to have to use the same software as me when it comes to analyzing your trades, and that is TradingView. And I wanted to create this video on TradingView to just help you set it up in the best way, because there are certain features on here which are really, really good. There are also certain features on here you simply do not need. And there are also features on here I have never ever touched. Now, you may be well used to TradingView by now. So this video is for anyone that is not currently up to date with TradingView and how it works. I use the TradingView, which allows me to split my chart into three. I don't use any other stuff. I have monitors for that. I also use this one setting here, which allows me a full chart screen as well. Now, this is the default setting for TradingView. And what I really dislike about it is the fact that when you come on, you're presented with red candles and green candles. Green, psychologically, is a positive color, enforcing you to go, enforcing you to buy, enforcing you to make profits. Red is always seen as a very dangerous, negative color. It's why the red is always the danger zone, the stop zone, and things like that. But the way we are going to trade, you could be taking plenty of sell positions and you could be making plenty of money in sell positions, which is meaning you're going to need red candles. But I don't like red candles as well as I don't like green candles, because if you're being stopped out in a position of drawdown and the candle is red, that is going to force you to think more negatively than you actually need to think. So what I essentially do whenever I come into it, I've got a default setting, but I've just reset it here. I'm going to show you what I do. You right click and you come all the way down to settings, which is right here. Now you're going to see loads of different things and options for you to actually do some things on. The first thing we're just going to focus on doing here is we're going to focus on the body. If you click here, the bodies disappear. If you click there, the bodies and the borders disappear. So we want to make sure these areas are ticked and kept ticked, because we need the wicks, we need the bodies, we need the borders. But what we're going to do is we're going to change the color of the bodies, and we're going to go up candles are going to be blue, and down candles we're going to change to this kind of darker color just to be a little bit neutral. And then the wicks, we don't need to be different colors. We can just have them as black. I like to keep things very plain. So already you can see there it's looking a little bit more neutral, meaning we can take a sell free willingly, we can take a buy free willingly. It is not a problem. If you, whichever time zone you are in, again, I've got this set to London time zone. You can set this to New York, wherever your location is. What I will say is the algorithm we're going to refer to within here is going to be New York time, Eastern time. So as long as you're aware of that, that's absolutely fine. I set mine to London because I'm aware of the timings that I trade. And I know the timings inside the New York session as well. So you could do one of two things. You could do what I do and set it to wherever you are located and refer to New York times. Or you could just go ahead and actually set it to New York time, which is UTC -5. If you set it to that, you will be in line with the algorithm basically. But I like to set it to London because I know that when it gets to 2 p.m., that's actually 10 a.m. in New York. And I usually trade between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. UK time, which is usually between those New York hours of 10 until 12 or something like that. So as we come down, again, we can see here you can choose to get rid of the logos if you want. You can get rid of the titles if you want. I choose to keep all of this open. I don't need to touch this. This is just generally left alone. In terms of scales and things like that, again, not something I particularly go over, not something I particularly touch. You can always keep your mouse visible, for example. You can change little things to suit your needs. Again, nothing in here needs to change too much. In terms of canvas, I don't like these square backgrounds, so I choose to just get rid of them. For me, My background doesn't need to be any kind of weird colors. That just looks strange in my eyes. I like to keep things white. Again, if we go black, it's going to be harder to see. Even if you change it to gray, it's going to be harder to see. If you change it to a light gray, it just doesn't look right. I just like to keep things super, super simple. You could go for a darker mode and then you could change these colors if you really wanted to. I don't really like seeing all of these weird colors. They just do not make any sense to me. So I keep it just like that. In terms of the other stuff, again, I don't like this bar unless I'm trading on TradingView, which I will be doing this year. But unless I'm trading on TradingView, again, you can basically get rid of that. The rest of the stuff, again, I'm quite happy to keep. When I turn my broker on with TradingView, that will essentially stay there, but that's okay for now. Alerts, again, I don't set alerts the way I trade, but you can set alerts. Again, I don't tend to touch anything on here in terms of events. That's nothing really to do with what we're doing. So we've only really changed the symbols. We've only really changed the canvas. And then we're in a position where we can save as. I have mine as main chart. I click on main chart right there. And essentially it brings me back. So when I want to come back to it, let's just say, for example, I accidentally have lost everything again, which is sitting right here. Maybe I just want to go right click. And because I've saved it, it will just flick right back. And I am back to a normal chart. So in terms of the tools I use, very, very simply, I like to use this horizontal ray. Now to get a little favorites list within here, all you have to do is come to this level here, open up this here, and let's just say we wanted to add this fib circles randomly, for example. You would just star it right there, add it to favorites, and you'll see it's on your toolbar. Now I don't actually want this, so I'm just going to go back into this. I'm going to unstar it right there, and it will disappear. Everything you see within these areas, Elliott waves and impulse, head and shoulders, short positions, forecasts, ghost feeds, I don't use all of them. I don't use all these arrows. I don't use these rotated rectangles. I don't use polylines. I don't use triangles. I don't need smiley faces. I can use the text. So again, that's all there. I have favorited all of that, so I don't need that. I don't even know what that is. I never use it. But everything I have here, so we've got the horizontal ray, which I use to mark out certain key areas. Within these certain areas, you can click up here to templates. I've got all of these prerequisites saved. So if I wanted to find the opening price, it would be this area here. But if we wanted to change this, for example, let's just say we wanted to just call this London High. Just going to call that a test for the purpose of it. Let's just say we wanted to change the color. We can change the color of the text. We can go to style. We can change it to a darker one. We can also change the thickness of it as well. We can change the style. There's all sorts of different things we can do with it. And then when I want to save it, I just go to save as, and I'm going to just call it test London High, just as an example. Again, that has now been saved. So I can essentially change this. If I want to go back to what I've just saved, all I would need to do is find it, and it would just bring up what we made. And you can do this for everything you have on here as well. So we've got the horizontal ray, we've got the eclipse right here, we've got the Fibonacci retracement tool, which I'm going to talk to you about as well in another lesson. All of these ones, I'm not going to go through every single one, but these are the ones I basically find the most useful. And again, you can keep these on a favorites bar as well up here. So that is my TradingView setup. I would also like to mention my list in terms of what I look for. Now, I usually have certain lists. You only need to trade certain pairs. For example, I trade Forex, which is just going to give me Euro USD, Pound USD. It's going to give me Aussie USD, and I would trade the indices as well, or the futures market. And I keep an eye on bonds as well and indexes. But again, with regards to making all of this, if you wanted to trade, let's just say CAD JPY, let's just randomly click on this one. Let's say you wanted to add this into here. There's a couple of things you can do. You can come into your settings. Is it in settings? It's somewhere in here. You can come into this area here. You can add a section. So let's just add a section in here, which is going to change the name of that. Let's just call that CAD pairs, just like that. And as you can see, nothing's really on CAD pairs. But if we move this up to here, for example, you can see you've got all of these areas. We've just created CAD pairs. Now, what we would end up doing is, if we want to save this inside of our playlist of pairs, basically, I would right click, I would go to add CAD JPY to watch list. Now, in terms of which list we're adding this to, it's already in this particular list here. But if you don't have a list, you create a list. Once you create a list, you would then come up with this main list. I've already got it here, so I'm just going to add this to main list. So once I add it to main list, you can see it's just defaulted itself to the inside the bonds because that's the bottom one. All I would do then is drag it to the point where it's under CAD pairs, Canadian dollar pairs. So that now sits within that area right there as well. So have a play around with it. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, you obviously have access to me via WhatsApp and things like that. So if you've got any questions about your setup, you want me to look at your setup or anything like that, please feel free to let me know. But otherwise, I will speak to you all on the next one.